What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Did you beat your wife? Did you kick a pup? We'll find your crimes and rake it up. Did you laugh at Hubbard? That's not nice, and now you'll have to pay your bride. So what are your crimes, Mark? What have you done? Oh, it's too late now. Fair game's begun.
Is it just me, or does that song put a smile on your face too? I hope it does. Because, it's one of the biggest hits in this sector of the galaxy. And, of course, we're broadcasting live here on Xenu TV, reaching out through the cosmos, and especially concentrating on all you wonderful folks who live here on TGAC. And I appreciate you stopping by. We got Lady Victoria here. Hello, Lady Victoria. And what? You're from North Carolina? Is that what it is? Yes, there you go. What a nice doggy. And Kelly is correct. Everybody hit that like button. Who do we have here? Jay, good evening, Mark and Kelly. Thank you for giving the love to Kelly. Doing a spectacular job as always, keeping everything under control. This place would be chaotic without her. CJ, my never-in avatar. Hello, all. Hello to you. JB808. Hello, good sir. Hello back to you. I appreciate that. Jay appreciates the early live streams. Yes, we're gonna go earlier. In fact, I would have gone earlier tonight, but I was scrambling to put this together. I have been digging through a bunch of old tapes, and normally I've been working with these DV cam tapes from the LMT years, but I moved on to these HD tapes in by the time that Anonymous rolled around in 2008. I was shooting in HD, and looking through all of these, and I've got tons of stuff here. This one cryptically says E-meter shot. Well, this was when I went to a free zone convention in Las Vegas back around probably 2010, 2011. And they welcomed me as an honored guest and allowed me to videotape everything there. And then the guy who was in charge of the free zone at that point, and probably still is now, Ray Robles, he was nice enough to sit down and do an interview and let me grab a hold of the cans and do an auditing session. So I've got that on tape, which has never been seen. That was supposed to be part of the documentary. I got to say, though, I was not at all sessionable. So if I did not actually get any gains from the auditing, well, it's my fault. As always, 100% standard tech works 100% of the time. And I happen to have been incredibly tired because I only got like 2 hours of sleep, and I had some sort of bizarre medical situation. The night I arrived at the hotel and casino, I forget which one it was, but man, they were going to call the ambulance for me. I don't have insurance. I'll be fine. So I got a couple hours of sleep, got up, and went at it. That's more information than you needed to know, but it was quite an exciting event for me. Eric says, hello, Mark, and all love from Culver City, California. Your 38th birthday was on Monday. Well, happy birthday to you. Monday the 3rd. Okay, I'm sorry. I hate the happy birthday song. I've hated it since I was 5, since I have high-functioning autism. You know, you don't have to have a reason to hate the birthday song. But I'm sorry that, it hits you the wrong way. That happens from time to time. I think most of us are able to just tune out this song that we've been listening to. Now, for me, it'll be 69 years of hearing that song. So just you hold on, Eric. Maybe by then you'll get used to it and start to enjoy it even. And you're a Pisces baby. We all wanted to know that. Thank you very much. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Well, Hank's here. Hello, my favorite wogs and wogettes. And hello to you too. I thank you all for stopping by here. So lots of interesting things. Look, some of these I haven't seen in ages, and I'm not exactly sure what's on them. But this one says Tory's birthday. What could it possibly be? We'll find out when I actually put it in the camera and capture it. What do I have? Meeting David Tennant, Doctor Who, and Russell T Davies when they were just ending the Doctor Number 10's adventures. We've got an anonymous raid. I've got plenty of these. This one is from September of 2008. I've got the Sea Arg picket. Lots of fascinating things. Anyway, lots of stuff in the future here. Oh, wait a minute. How about this? Tory called Eric on his birthday. Well, that was nice of her. Yeah, now you have her number. And don't call her right now because she's having dinner with a friend and she's going to watch some TV show. That's why she's not here. I said, okay, that's fine. Who needs you? This doesn't need to be a Bunky and Magoo. Well, we're going to do that on Monday. You got that to look forward to, everybody. Did I get a ride in the TARDIS? No, but I did. I did see the TARDIS, and I did see one of the official Daleks at the BBC when I visited in London. And it was incredibly exciting to meet David Tennant, my favorite of the Doctors. Okay. I guess I have to qualify that because Tom Baker is really my doctor. I grew up with Tom Baker when the show first came to America. And 7 years worth of Tom Baker adventures left an impact on me. There's something about his Harpo Marx whimsical, unexpected delivery of lines that I especially enjoy. Kelly, you're right. How dare Magoo be having fun? I can't believe it myself. Of course, I'm having fun here too. And she'll regret this. I'm sure right now she's having a meal and thinking, oh God, I can't really enjoy this. I can't digest my food because I know Mark's struggling without me. So we won't lord it over her. Goblin AFK, the 10th Doctor episodes are just impeccable. Most of them are, not all of them. There's an occasional stinker here or there, but yeah, there's definitely some amazing episodes during the David Tennant years. Some of my favorites actually were written by Stephen Moffat, who went on to run the show after Russell T Davies stepped down. Still writing great episodes of Doctor Who, even though he thought he had retired from it. I don't know if you saw the Doctor Who Christmas show, Christmas special this year. I thought it was one of the best ever. Really funny, really heartwarming, and just everything you want in a Christmas episode. If you haven't seen it, it's right there on Disney Plus, whatever it is, so you can watch it. Did I enjoy Sherlock? Goblin asked. Well, yes, I did, and I join you in wishing that it would come back. The problem is both the guys, Benedict Cumberbatch and, of course, the fabulous, what's his name? Both have incredibly active careers now. Really, it's amazing that I thought of, remembered Benedict Cumberbatch. So I hope that Watson doesn't get too upset. Remember, almost 69. I did see something recently, some acknowledgement from both the actors that maybe if there's a really great script, maybe it is time to come back. So we shall see if they do that. It's, I don't know if this happened where you live, probably did. There have been times over the past decade or so where a special episode of Doctor Who or Sherlock was playing in the movie theaters here for one night. And I always enjoy going to those, even though I just watched them on TV like a day or two earlier. But I want to go see them on the big screen and with a crowd full of fans. So that was The Abominable Bride, I think, was the episode of Sherlock that they played in the movie theater. And there was I remember a 3D episode of Doctor Who that played in the theater with the 11th Doctor. And if you like this babbling, as Kelly says, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. It is easy and free and makes you feel really nice inside. Gives you a little tingly feeling all over. So that is my recommendation. Just hit that like over and over and over. I'd love to see them in the theater, says Goblin AFK. I plan on seeing Mickey 17 soon. Looks strange, but I like unique science fiction. Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer for it yet, but I did hear one of the, I guess the main actress talking about it, I think on Seth Meyers' show. And it sounds like an intriguing story. Oh, and it's directed by that great director of Parasite, as I recall. Can I think of his full name? No, Bong is in there. I'm sure that Bong or Bon, no, it's Bong, I think, is part of it. But a really terrific director, and I always look forward to anything that he's doing now. Ever since I saw The Host in a movie theater way back when, I think that was his first hit, a Godzilla type of film that came. Yes, there you go. See, Bong. I didn't make that up. I appreciate that. Yeah, if I'm correct, I think that this is his film. I saw an article about it in the New York Times, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But boom. Here's what I understand Mickey 17 is about, and I could be terribly confused about this, but it's my understanding that this is set aboard a spaceship, and there's a big battle going on, and there's a new class of fighters, of infantry people who have had their essence uploaded to the cloud, so when they die, they can just print out a new body for them, and they go back into battle. So Robert Pattinson, I think, is the lead in this, who keeps getting murdered over and over and over in various ways, and it's supposed to be a delightful comedic science fiction film. Well worth checking out. So what did I think of Oscars night? Well, let me just tell you this. I didn't really watch much of the Oscars. I haven't I haven't watched award shows in a long time. I used to just tape them and scan through everything, and that's essentially what I did this time. I watched the stuff that I like to see is the opening, and I think Conan O'Brien did a great job. And I watched all of his bits in the show, and I saw a couple of the acceptance speeches. But I think by the time I watched it, I had saw that it was pretty much a sweep for Honora. So there were no real surprises for me. But I did really enjoy Honora when I saw that in the movie theater, much more than I thought. I don't know if you're familiar with the story in Honora, but it's about a stripper who is hired to be the girlfriend for a week to this young guy who's the son of drug lords or something. And he's just this irrepressible, hyper fella. And he proposes, and so they're going to get married, and she's excited, but the family is not. His family comes to break them up. So that's the story that I knew going into it. And I had heard that it was kind of a thriller. And the thriller aspect of it was mild, but the human emotions of it really got to me. And there's I hate to say it, but there's kind of a sweet relationship that develops in the film that you don't see coming. And it's, I think that's well worth checking out. Was I a fan of Snowpiercer? Boy, was I ever. You didn't like it? Wow, I'm sorry about that, JB808. I thought that was a terrific film. I saw it several times in the movie theaters, which I don't usually do much anymore. But I thought that was extremely well made. I liked the performances in it. The fact that they turned it into a TV series, I couldn't quite get into that. I watched a couple episodes, but it was like, okay, come on. One fight on the train is all I need. But there you go. I think it's well worth seeing. Though JB808, you don't have to watch it again. If you didn't like it, that's fine. This was the most enjoyable one in a long time, Oscar ceremony. I'm a big fan of Conan and tuned in just for that. I have, I was never a huge fan of Conan, but I have really grown to appreciate and admire him after his shows went off the air, because I'm really enjoying his podcast. And I have gone back and watched a lot of his earlier stuff now. I think it was remarkable how he came in and took over after Dave Letterman on Late Night. I was a Dave Letterman fan from the very first time Dave appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. So I followed him as his career skyrocketed, guest hosting for Johnny early on, and then getting a morning show. I don't know if any of you remember or knew about this or even care, but Dave had a mistake of a morning show, a live morning show following the Today Show. And it was Dave's show, essentially. What he eventually did late at night is what he was doing for 90 minutes live on NBC right after the Today Show. And I remember fun stuff that happened on that show. It was where he created stupid pet tricks. Well, actually, his girlfriend, Meryl Marco, the head writer of the show, she came up with that and a bunch of other great stuff from his show. But Dave lasted for, I think, 9 months on the morning show before he was canned. And he thought, that's it. That's the end of my career. I had a shot at doing a talk show and it's gone. my life is over. And then a year later, they said, okay, you can follow Carson. And the rest is TV history. So I watched him virtually every night of his career. And so I tuned in when Conan took over. And I don't know if you remember or if you even saw Conan's first show, but he does this taped piece where he's heading in to do the show, and everywhere he goes, people are like, "You better be as good as Letterman." So I won't spoil it because you can find it on YouTube. But he got off to a shaky start, but NBC was very smart to put the first week of Dave's show on right before Conan premiered rather. So you could see, well, look, Dave wasn't Dave in the beginning either. There was a lot of shakedown cruises that needed to happen before his show really clicked. So, and what I absolutely loved about Conan's late night was the desk pieces. I thought his writers were brilliant, and all the things that they came up with, like Clutch Cargo and Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, and all the stuff they did at the desk, I thought those were genius. I didn't stick around for a lot of the interviews, but I did appreciate the guy's talent. And and I think he's talked about this, that the podcast is something that he's really loved doing, and it gives him an opportunity to do, these longer interviews. And so if you haven't listened to his podcast, go ahead and do it. It's a great show. And do I remember Chevy Chase's late night show? Yeah, that was a disaster. Magic Johnson, it was a disaster too, but it wasn't as much fun as Chevy Chase's disaster. It was amazing to see how scared Chevy was, just kind of shaking at doing his live show when he left Saturday Night Live after 1 year. Everyone was saying, "Oh, he's going to take over for Carson. Oh, Johnny, watch out, Johnny, he's going to take over your show." So when Chevy actually finally got a show, he was horrible at it. Did I enjoy the Late Late Show during the Tom Snyder years? Yeah, I used to watch him in the time slot that Dave took over on NBC. What was the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder? And he was always terrific. He had a lot of great guests on. I remember he had Harlan Ellison on. And they talked about L. Ron Hubbard saying, if you want to get rich, create a religion. It's also a conversation that they had when Tom Snyder went over following Dave on CBS. And Craig Ferguson, I at first ignored him. The woman in my life at that time loved him, so I started watching, and by God, I really, really came to enjoy just the insanity of Craig Ferguson's show with the horse and the skeleton and all the kind of stuff that went with it. Just the fun nonsense that he brought to the show. And I got to tell you, I still go back to YouTube and watch a lot of his interviews from that period because the show is just fun. All right. Rachel is saying, hey, Mark. And I think that probably means, hey, stop talking about all this TV crap. Pat Sajak. I saw Pat Sajak's show, I think once live in the studio audience. And, he was doing Dave's show. But, Dave was already doing Dave's show. I didn't think he was terrible. But it wasn't memorable either. Pat Sajak's show did not last too long. He did, however, pave the way for CBS to say, okay, Well, we tried to do a late night show, and now that Dave is ready to bolt NBC after losing out the Tonight Show, let's get him over here. So that was a nice training ground for CBS to see, can we have a late night show? Yeah, you can. You can have the top one. Totally forgot about Tom Snyder. Says Agent Mom. Kind of easy to forget. But he did some great shows somewhere. I think I have an audio tape, or at least I used to, of Tom Snyder's show about Scientology. Somewhere. I'll see if I can dig that up. And what was who? The other guy I wanted to rant about or rant in favor of, because I don't think he gets enough love. The sports guy who went on after Letterman. And Bob Costas. He did some absolutely great interviews with people like Mel Brooks, where he would spend an entire week with Mel Brooks doing the half-hour show, and those were always great. And I have dug up a few of those on YouTube. If you haven't seen them, check them out, because he was a really terrific interviewer. Eric loved Craig Ferguson's show. He was very funny. Yep. Lupita thinks that Craig Ferguson is eerie. No, that's about Severance. Severance was is a great show, and my brother also contacted me and said, "Wasn't that it? Well, it seemed like an E-meter in that episode." Yep. The interesting thing about Dave's time at CBS was that he actually owned the time slot for a show and the slot following it, which is why Craig could be so creative, if I understand the history. Because that's Carson's deal. Carson at NBC owned Dave's show. So Late Night with Dave Letterman was a Johnny Carson production. And when Dave came to CBS, he said, well, that's the deal that I want. And initially, he wanted to get Bob Costas to do that show. And Bob didn't want to stop doing baseball. So that didn't happen. And so he went with Tom Snyder. And, Dave was a broadcaster, and he appreciated Tom Snyder's years and years and years of broadcasting. And then, Worldwide Pants, that's Dave's company. And then, who was it? The first comic that they put on there after Tom Snyder, I think, was that guy who was on the Daily Show before Jon Stewart, and I can't think of his name right now. It seems to me it was another Craig. I didn't care much for him, so I was glad to see him gone. And then Craig Ferguson was absolutely brilliant. There you go, Craig Kilborn. Thank you so much. Oops, that Craig Kilborn. You may have spelled that wrong. I don't care. I don't remember. Okay. Hey, did you know we were going to talk about Scientology tonight? That was the plan. So let's see. This started with questions about the Oscars. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to mention from the Oscars that I tried watching. Who's the best actor this year? I can't think of his name. He's somebody that won an Oscar before, and everyone hated him for, because he was egotistical. And then I read, well, yeah, they hated this speech from him too. And I think it was Seth Meyers who had a joke about like the sun rising and his speech was still going on, something like that. All right. Belgrath says, I'm ready for Ida. She was amazing. Yep, she was. It was really great knowing her. Jon Stewart is the best, though. Let's not forget that. Jon Stewart, it's great to have him back. I listened to the book on tape, behind the scenes, the oral history of The Daily Show. And that was a great book, a great listen. And I had a lot of respect for the way Jon Stewart came in and gave the show a point of view and kind of elevated the entire series after Craig Kilburn's, fart jokes or whatever. All right. Stephen grew a beard while Adrian Brody gave his speech. You got to admit, though, beards are lovely. The ladies love them. Okay. So, Ida. That's why we're here tonight. Ida was one of the earliest people taking on Scientology, and it's because her son got involved and he disconnected from her. And so she did everything in her powers to try to rectify that. And when she couldn't rectify it, she at least became a thorn in the side of Scientology. And she'd been doing that for many years by the time that I started speaking out in 99, and then in 2000 coming to Clearwater for the first time to work for the Lisa McPherson Trust. So I got to know Ida when I lived in LA and later San Diego. I used to get invited up to her place, and she would gather some noted critics around, and we would all have a delightful meal and sit and chat and have fun. Ida was also incredibly close with Congressman Leo J. Ryan, who was the congressman who was assassinated when he went down to Jonestown. But she had been in close contact with him, and he was helping on all sorts of cult issues, not just Jim Jones and Jonestown. And ultimately, after he was murdered down there, Ida was presented one of the flags that flew over the Capitol in honor of Leo J. Ryan and his death. So that's pretty remarkable. That if you haven't followed the Jonestown story, I'm sure you probably have. There have been some great documentaries about it, and the fact that Goblin's a new member. Hooray! Thank you, Goblin. The fact that he went down there, for one, is pretty amazing, because you can't get politicians involved in anything really, but definitely getting somebody who wants to take on a cult is tough, and I suppose even more so after he was murdered. But the story of how he went down there and the what is it? What Scientology call it? The Blue Skies Fair Weather Act that they put on, When the congressman got there with his entourage, it was all, oh, no, we're so happy. Everybody's happy to be here. No, it's wonderful. But then people slipped some notes to him, say, you need to get out of here. And Ryan got on the microphone or on the mic and said, all right, we're going to fly back. Anyone who wants to fly back with us, we got the plane down here. And that was the end of it. That's when all the murder suicides happened. And Goblin is happy to be here as I talk about Doctor Who and incredibly depressing assassinations. All right. But this conversation we're going to watch tonight is fun. And I asked Tory to be here, but Tory, for some reason, wanted to have a life. And she said, you can't call me up 10 minutes before you do one of these things and expect me to not go to dinner with my friend who, and we had this arranged. And I said, Tory, come on, it's Bunky and Magoo. Come on. The dynamic too. But no, she's gonna come and talk about some of this stuff on Monday. And she'll probably spend the first 36 minutes talking about movies and TV shows as well. It's not just me. She's a bad influence. I was always on target with Scientology stuff before Magoo started talking about all this nonsense. Anybody buy that? All right. All right, there we go. Just checking if there's important things that I missed here. If folks had anything that prescient that I should be talking about, and I guess you're just going along with my media rants, so I appreciate that. So let's get to this. I did an interview with Ida on my original camera, which was standard def, and I didn't really get I didn't really capture Ida on it well, and so we went back and Tory actually had a conversation with Ida, and that's what we're going to look at tonight, and that worked out nicely. So you get to see Ida, and she can be feisty. You if you take a look at Scientology's smear site about her, Religious Freedom Watch, oh, they have some things to say. But Ida was always terrific with all the critics. Last time I was there, Arnie Lerma was a frequent guest. And, it's tragic how Arnie wound up. If you don't know, Arnie was one of the main voices speaking out against Scientology when I started looking into this. And, I got to know him. He was a good guy, but he increasingly was going crazy in the last years of his life. And it was a little annoying. I remember the last time he was there at Ida's house, he had another new fiance, and she had as many nutty conspiracy theories as Arnie did. So it was like a match made in heaven. What was I'm trying to think. By that point, I was getting a little short with Arnie because it was just insanity that he was spouting. I didn't realize how deeply disturbed he was. This was when Anonymous was just on the scene, and they were out there doing all the protests. And Arnie had this theory that he shared with us all about how the CIA was behind this, and Anonymous was one of their plots. And I won't go into all the details because I can't remember them all, but I remember him saying something about, to get the anonymous guy who's running the thing involved in this, they set him up with, some woman who performed acts on him. And the story got so odd that I had to just say, no, that's not true at all. Which you could say pretty much about much of what Arnie was spouting in the last years of his life. Then, if you're not aware, he shot his then wife in the face and then took his own life. She survived. Bob helped her recover, as far as I remember. But it truly tragic. And he, at one point, was dating a woman that I was involved with. And I was just so glad that she was not the one at the end of his life who had to, face that gun. Anyway, there we go. I've certainly brought the place down. So let's put that aside, and let's listen to this conversation between Tory and Ida, shall we? All right, here we go.
So it's May 24th, 2009.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah,
It
May
is.
24th.
It is. All right, so it's Ida and Tory. And Ida and I had the pleasure of meeting each other because how did we first meet?
I can't remember. Was it at a picket?
No, it was in Clearwater, Florida. Remember,
that's
because
right.
of the chair. We sat in the red chair. We picketed.
Yes, we did. We
And she-
picketed, sat in the red chair.
She was so great. I was like,
So the red chair, this was at Christmas time. And so they had a big chair for Santa Claus out in front of the Welcome Center. So where the Welcome Center doors are now, those were closed, and they had the big chair there that, supposedly you were welcome to sit in. But when we tried, the police were called. But Tory got a picture, and I didn't have time to dig up those pictures tonight. But when Tory stops by on Monday, we'll have those, and we'll share more of that.
we're picketing, and I just got a camera and everything, and they had their injunction where we couldn't
Yeah.
we couldn't block the doors.
That's
And they had a red Santa's chair in front of these bushes in front of a door. And I said to Ida, "You want a picture?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." And she sat down, took the picture. She said, "You want a picture?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And I sat down afterwards.
That's
Lights,
right.
camera, you're under arrest.
yeah, it was
Crazy.
kind of funny.
But that's how we met. We
Yeah.
still both have the picture of us in our red Santa's chairs.
Yeah, I think
But it was the beginning of a good friendship.
yeah, it was. It was. That was an interesting trip too. I think I took Keith down there
Yeah.
that time, didn't
Yeah.
I?
Yeah. And there were a lot of critics there then.
Yeah,
That
there
was
were.
2000.
Well, and I think
And Keith Henson was, let me get back up here. Keith Henson was a longtime critic, and I got to know him at the early protests. And Keith actually had to stand trial. He got arrested, and he was accused of threatening a church. And from my understanding of it, he had made a post in response to a post on alt-religion Scientology, where he was talking about, or even just responding to the fact that somebody had talked about Tom Cruise missiles aimed at the gold base. And from that, he was arrested. And unfortunately, Keith was not the best person to take the stand in his own defense. And he had turned to Bob and the Lisa McPherson Trust to help finance his case. And Bob said he would if Keith would pay attention to what the attorney says. But instead, no, Keith wanted to be out in front of the church, not in front of the church, out in front of the courthouse every day prior to his trial. And the judge in this case did not allow the word Scientology to be uttered. So all the jury heard was that Keith was a religious bigot attacking a church. And, you know, Keith's behavior didn't help him much. But I mean, it's incredible injustice that the jury could not hear. Well, yeah, he was protesting Scientology, and there's a good reason for it. So he was found guilty, and then he fled the country. He went up to Canada and eventually did his time. But it was quite a story. And now back to the important interview here. Boom.
Arnie came from.
Right? Arnie was there.
Arnie was there, and oh God, there were a lot of old timers there.
Yeah, it was really fun. But Ida, you originally got into this because of your son, right?
Oh yeah. I read an ad that the Cramptons had put in about the dangers of cults or whatever it was, and I answered it. And I said, do you look at Scientology as a cult, or am I just a doting mother?
That's a good question.
And she wrote back and she said, you're not a doting mother. It is a cult. If you'd like to talk about it, come see us. So I flew down from San Francisco, and she met me at the airport. And from then on, we were fast friends.
I bet.
And she was such a worker. Her and her husband were probably the hardest workers of anybody I ever knew to expose, not just Scientology, but they had a daughter who had joined the Love Family, which was a real nasty group. And they worked hard and long to get her out of that outfit. So then they did such a good job of it that everybody was coming to them. I'd go down and spend a week with them, and you couldn't believe the number of people that came for help to the Cramptons. They were two great people, and they never.
All right, just an important break here to respond here to. Doesn't matter to you, not to me. I don't think there's any problem with the Cash App. It's usually worked. I have not checked it tonight, but if it's not working, you've got the Venmo or the PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee. Multiple ways you can help out here, and I greatly appreciate it. Let me know if the Cash App works. Oh, somebody sent me a picture of their Xenu TV mouse pad that arrived today, and it's a thing of beauty. You really ought to have one in your home. It was nice to see it out there in the wild. And Fourth Wall, or whatever the company's called that creates them, they got it to them quickly, and it looks beautiful. So there you go. Hey, more of the important stuff.
Never turned anybody away. I don't know how many dinners she quick fixed for some kid that come that hadn't eaten for a week. And they were in some group and couldn't show up with any money, and the group wouldn't have anything to do with them, so they'd come to her for help.
And back then, like now, people can type in the internet. We're also used to Google, and you can type in Scientology, and their stuff comes up. But the second stuff that comes up is critical information, right?
Yeah.
But back then, there was nothing.
We didn't have anything, and you really didn't dare stick your nose out too far because they would come after you.
Right.
And really.
And sue you, right?
It wasn't just that. I mean, they did a lot of dirty tricks. I can't even count the dirty tricks that were pulled on me. But
Like the fair games.
oh, you better know it. I used to have, when I moved here, there used to be people come here and pick up in front of my house.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When
Scientologists?
when I first moved here, I don't know anybody else would. And then Muriel Dufresne from over at the cult, she came and went to all the neighbors and told them I was housing a killer. Keith Hansen was staying here with me.
Killer.
And picketing. And she come and she went to all the neighbors, and they said they didn't think I'd have anybody in their house that was a killer. Well, believe me, she's got one. And then they'd show a distorted picture of Keith to where he looked just like an absolute gangster. And they made the trip around here, and if I hadn't had good neighbors, they probably would have said, this woman's got to go.
Right, exactly.
But that was their intention, that was their...
But back then, pretty much wasn't like you wrote letters, right?
Oh,
to
yeah.
Congressmen and
When I started, when my son first got involved, I used to keep a record. I don't know if I even have it anymore. But I wrote to congressmen, I wrote to senators, I wrote to governors, and
Didn't you were in touch with the guy that went down to Jonestown? What was
oh, yeah. Oh, it was Leo Ryan.
Leo J. Ryan?
How I met Leo was, I never actually met him in person, but I knew his sister.
But he wrote to you, right?
Oh, yeah. His sister, she went to a Cult Awareness Network meeting, and that's where I met her. And her son, who was going to a Jesuit school, I mean, he was going to a Catholic school, and one of them there told him that he should look into Scientology. So he got all wrapped up in Scientology right off of the bat. And this really shook her up. So when she's back east, she talks to Leo about it. And she said, Leo, you should look into some of this. And I met her at one of the Cult Awareness meetings and started a conversation through letters with her. And she said, you should write to my brother. So I wrote to Leo, and I happened to be in his district because I was living up near San Francisco then. And he wrote right back. And we had a meeting. As soon as he got back from Jonestown, he was coming back up in his area to do some speeches, and he wanted to see Patty Hearst because she was in his district, and he was going to stop and we were going to go have lunch. And then when he was killed, I was absolutely devastated.
I bet.
In fact, I went to a psychiatrist afterwards, and I couldn't deal with it. I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And finally, my husband said, you got to do something. You can't sit around like this. He said, you're going to get sick. I said, I think I'm already sick. So I went to this guy. He was a super guy. And I guess I went to him 2 or 3 times. His name was Dr. Kansky. He was sharp in attack. And actually, we kind of become friends through all of the conversation. He was a good psychiatrist. But anyway, he taught me how to deal with the loss of a child. And when a kid goes in Scientology, you've lost them. And I just couldn't come to terms with losing this kid I had when I was young. I was 19, I think, when he was born, or 18.
Let me check this. It looked out of sync to me as I was watching it here, but sometimes I think that leg on my screen is doing it. Let me just see if I can. Let's bring it back up here.
And we always were so close. We had such a good relationship, especially after his father died. And he helped with his brother, and, it was a real good relationship. And then all of a sudden, this is over. You either kiss Scientology or you're done. And I couldn't do that. To me, it was the most evil outfit I ever saw in my life. All I could read about was that it broke up families. It didn't keep
Yeah.
families together like religion is supposed to do. It broke.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I put this together quickly tonight. I did not check this after it got uploaded. When I sent it there, it was synced. But it does seem a bit out. Do you want to continue with this? We can, or I could fix it and we can play it again when Tory's around.
Come up.
All right.
So I went after everybody I could.
And there's a lot of other families who've been broken up also.
Oh, yeah. There were just so many. And the more that I'd go to these occult awareness meetings, the one up in San Francisco was a little bit sophisticated. If you didn't have a Mooney in the family, they didn't really pay much attention. Oh, I don't think Scientology is really a cult. I said, then have a kid join one and you'll find out.
Oh, yeah.
There were 2 or 3 lawyers there that had lost kids to the Moonies, and you'd have thought that was the only cult in the whole damn country. And here was people losing to Krishnas and God only knows who all.
Right.
The Love family, there was a half a dozen other ones. So I didn't fit in with that group very good. That's where I met Ford Green's mother, and she was the best one in the whole group, to listen at least. And
Wow.
they just thought the Moonies were the only one that was ever bothering anybody.
Right.
So, and then one man, he had the guts to say, well, prove to me Scientology is a cult. I said, have your kid join. Then you'll know.
Yeah.
That's all I could say. How are you going to prove somebody's a Scientology? In Scientology.
Or that it's
You
cult-like.
just can't. Well, and
No,
I think
oops, that is
Or that
way
it's
out.
cult-like.
you can't.
Or it's a mind control
Yeah,
thing.
you
Yeah.
can't even do it. Of course, that was, remember, back in the 70s when there wasn't anything written on the internet.
Yeah, there wasn't any
Nothing.
coordinated
There
thing
wasn't,
at all.
No, there wasn't anywhere you could go for any information, especially any anti-information, because everybody was afraid of these bastards.
Right. And I remember being they would faction off anybody that was against them. You know what I mean? So it's sort of be like, oh, this is Ida and this is Jerry and, they're just this and they're just that and David Mayo. And, but when you were from the inside, you're kind of thinking, like, Mayo really helped me.
Yeah.
And so even though he was out, I refused to go against him because he helped me.
Yeah.
And so it was weird. I'm in and they're against him and I'm not. And it's very strange. It's a very strange thing. And I know now people are in and they're waking up.
Well, it's, I can understand someone getting involved in something, and especially when they had such a good method of indoctrinating you and then the method of keeping you.
Right.
This was, I can see young, and not, they didn't pick up the crop off the street. They got the good guys. They got people that were intelligent. They got people that were good, that would contribute to society.
Right.
And these are the ones that they got a hold of. And that's what really bugged me worse than anything, because they didn't go down on Skid Row and pick up people that needed help. They got the kids that were really prime people, that were good students and would contribute to society. Be mayors, be governors. I mean, these people that they got and screwed up their lives would have been somebody.
Could have been somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ronnie was very honest, and
your son.
Yeah, he was just a real good kid. And my other son was one you had to go to school with to shape him up every now and then. But Ronnie never had any of those problems. He was a prize student, got very good grades, and he loved to read. But he was a believer, and when they got a hold of him, he became a real believer, broke up his marriage.
Did he ever write a disconnection letter to you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I got one of those. I don't know where it is. I think it's on the internet.
And don't you think it's ridiculous the way they say that's the same as shunning?
Well, it isn't. It's worse than shunning.
Worse than shunning.
I think of course, I have no use for the Jehovah's that shun their families either.
Right. No, I agree.
just really, when they come here, they get a speech. I invite them in, ask them to sit down, and I lay them low. I really
best at that too.
I really do. I make them first. I say, if you don't salute the flag, I can't talk to you. Well, we don't really believe in saluting. I say, well, come in, sit down, and I'll tell you why you are salute the flag. They don't come here anymore. They got my house marked, and they won't come here anymore at all. I always got a kick out of talking to them, you know. It just kind of broke up the day. No, really, it can get pretty boring when you live alone, you know. And then some kind of people, they know I'm involved in all this crap, and they kind of look at you with a funny eye. Oh, you know her. So, but I like it here. I got awful good neighbors.
And when did you get on the internet and start meeting more people?
Oh, I can't even remember. It's been a long. The minute I could, I did.
Do you think it was in the 90s or 2000? Probably in 2000.
Oh,
God bless it. Sorry.
So it's May 12th.
people that were good students and would contribute to society. I guess it was. It was when I first got the computer.
Right.
That's when I started looking into the.
And you were on ARS, I remember.
Yeah.
What was that? And then you,
Of course,
you
I
met
wrote
a ton of people from.
I wrote letters. I used within about 5 years, so we didn't want to buy a house.
Right.
So we bought a mobile, and in a great big park there. It was very nice. It was interesting, a nice place, and met a lot of nice people. But they started writing letters to all my neighbors there, because I was working them then just as much as now. And, I started in on the minute I found out who they were. And when my son went in, and it ended up breaking up his family, and he had a beautiful wife, 2 nice children. They had everything in the world going for him. He had a remarkably good business. She was a systems analyst working. The kids were healthy. And this just shut the whole thing, because she
didn't want to go in, right?
Oh, she wasn't going to join. She said, I went down there and looked around at those people. She said, they got goofy eyes. She says, I'm not going. She says, there's no way. Well, when you're hypnotized, your eyes do get kind of goofy.
Some of those do, for sure.
I got hypnotized one time, and I come home and I looked in the mirror and I thought, what the hell happened to my eye?
Really?
Oh, they looked like 2 peels in the snow. They were just glaring.
Wow.
And I just really, I got hypnotized to quit smoking. Didn't work. It worked for about 10 days. And I would have killed for a cigarette after 10 days. But I finally quit that too. But, you get old, you got to quit everything. So, but anyway, it just, actually, I often sit now and I wonder, what the hell would I done with my life if my son hadn't joined Scientology? I never was somebody to join a women's group because they really irritate me. Right. I tried several times, but all they do is sit about clothes and hats and hairdos, and I left that stuff a long time ago. That's stuff you should do when you're young.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was done with all that. So I just couldn't handle the women's clubs. But one thing the son gave me was something to think about. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And do something about it.
Well, I couldn't. My dad would have just turned over in his grave if I'd have just sat around and not tried to do something.
I feel the same about my father.
Yeah.
My father passed away when I was 22.
Yeah.
And when I started to wake up, I could feel him there. You know, it was that courage that he gave me as a little kid. And it was like, come on, do something.
Well, my dad said to me one time, you know, when you look at something, and you look it over real good, and you know, well, it's damn dead wrong. And he said, you sit on your fanny and you don't try to do something about it. He said, now that's what I call a sin. So I thought, well, I've done enough bad sins in my life. I better not add one more. And that's really 90% of what he was telling me.
Totally.
And of course, he died long before Ronnie got involved in this. I can't even imagine what he would have done, because he just really was a fighter, and he would have just...
Yeah, it would have been interesting to have our fathers meet. Like my father kind of said the same thing. Because I grew up with my two older brothers, and there were always some bullies around. And my dad said, look, here's the deal. Bottom line, if people sit down at the table with you, it doesn't matter whether they're with you or against you. As long as they're willing to talk or even argue, as long as they're willing to sit down at the table, that's okay. The only people to watch out for are the bullies, because they will never sit down at the table with you and talk. And I thought about OSA, because I was working with them at the time, and I thought, these guys will never sit down at the table and
talk with anybody.
With anybody.
Yeah.
And was a big part of my waking up, was like thinking about my dad and thinking about these people won't sit down and talk at all.
Well, I think the maddest, the angriest I ever got in my life was when Muriel Dufresne...
She called my neighbor, by the way. That was the one.
Who's the wheel, you know, over there at the cult at Golden Era. I mean, she's the queen of all queens over there. And that witch, she comes by and dropped all this crap off to all my neighbors. Every single one of them but one brought them to me. I had a stack of stuff like this.
I did too. They did the same to me.
Did she come to my... all up around the neighborhood, all these old people that don't even know what the hell she's talking about. I was housing a killer because Keith was here. That was one of her...
And doesn't she look dangerous?
And I'm telling you, Keith wouldn't hurt a flea if he dropped...
I know, Keith too. Oh, God. When I heard that.
Anyway, it was... it's been interesting.
It's kind of like that scene in Singing in the Rain when they're showing the first video or film from the Dueling Cavalier with audio, and it goes wacky, and you've got the male speaking with the female voice. And I'm sorry about this.
Thing. Only one old lady come and talk to me about it. She says, you have to do something. We don't want this in our neighborhood. I said, then you'll probably have to move, because I'm not going anywhere. And that shut her up real quick. She never came back.
Well, I know, Ida, a ton of people would like to tell you thank you, and I want to give you a hug. Honestly, thank you so much.
Well, it's
been done a fantastic good for tons and tons of people, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Well, the only thing I wonder is what would I have done with my life if he hadn't have joined the cult? I
would have been
think about that. I would have missed meeting some of the nicest darn people you ever knew, and I never would have met them.
I hear you.
And if anybody would have come talking about it, I would have said, you got to be nuts. That doesn't happen in our country.
Yeah, right.
You know, I would have been as strong against anybody even thinking this could happen.
I hear you.
Well, the hard way to learn is to have a kid join. And, you know, maybe they could have done something with Mike. Mike was always, my youngest, he was always a renegade. He was hard to get to. He was wild, and there wasn't much you could do with Michael. And finally, he married a girl from Germany. He went in the service, and he married this girl from Germany, nice lady. And I knew the minute he brought her home, it wouldn't last. I just knew.
Because of what?
Hmm?
Because of what?
Well, she just wasn't American. She was a German.
Oh.
And she was a real German. Nice lady, but true German. And he lived with her, I don't know how long. Anyway, they had one boy who is a handsome brute. He's about 6'2". And the nicest kid. He's never married. He's 42, not gay. He's worked for Toyota for years. in the office down, and he's transferred him to Virginia. He lives in Arlington, and I forget where it is in Virginia. And I hear from him. They write real often. They're real nice. He lives with his mother, and I wish he'd get married, but he just can't find a gal that he likes. That's all there is to it. He'll go with a gal a while, and then he quits. And I said, well, maybe he's gay. No, he's not gay. He just can't find a woman that he wants to live with.
There you go.
So I think his mother is such a good cook has probably got him spoiled. I think he's afraid he won't get a decent cook if he gets married. But he's a nice guy and very handsome guy. I don't know, he's got a picture of him around here somewhere. That's him way up high up there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Well, thank you.
that's
Thank you
big.
for talking with us.
Hmm?
Thank you for talking with us.
Oh, well, I've talked long enough. That's the one thing that my dad said I was gifted with. He said she'll never shut up.
Well, don't you agree, for people that are in, maybe lurking, maybe listening to you, that one of the best things they could do is now, because there is access to all this information, is go on the internet, look at both sides, compare the notes. Like I said to this guard a couple weeks ago, read the internet, read the data, and then look at your group. Just look at them, watch them.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? Read the tech and
Yeah.
read what people are saying. And then look at your group and see.
Yeah.
You know, there's an old Chinese saying, watch where the feet go.
Well,
It's a
that's,
very good
it is.
thing.
That's a
Like,
good-
where are their feet going? They talk about we're clearing the planet, but where are their feet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the thing I feel so bad about, I've known several kids that were in and got out, and I never met a one that wasn't a nice person. You know, they don't attract crap down on the Skid Row somewhere. You'd like to have them pick up somebody and help them, or at least get them sober, but they don't mess with those people. They mess with the good people, and this is what
Because
really,
they have money.
really bugs me. It really bugs me.
Yeah, they're after either money or connections.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, Ronnie always could make money.
Right.
He's had 2 or 3 good businesses, and I don't even know what he does now. I guess he's retired. I don't know. He lives with some old broad that he met down in, I don't know where he met her in the Gulf.
Oh.
See, he went in right into the org downtown, and I didn't take very good to this, and I raised so much hell they threw him out. And the gal he'd connected with had to stay in. So it took her months before she could get out. And I just sat here laughing my full head off, saying, well, at least she's not out. But of course, he was just really furious with me. He wanted to be in there and doing his thing just like the real troopers were. Yeah. I said, well, you just picked the wrong mother, because I wasn't going to sit on my butt and listen to you wasting your life in this place, which might not even watch your health. Now, see, he's been on dialysis since 1990. And if he'd have been down there, he'd be dead. They
Yeah.
would never have taken care of him like that.
No.
He got cancer of the, let's see, I don't know, it was kidney, it must have been kidney or bladder. He got bladder cancer. And way back in 89 or 90, and he kept putting it off, and he went to Clearwater to get cured about 3 times. And finally, somebody just took him into the hospital. I guess he was beyond the stage of taking care of himself. And that's when he went on dialysis. Well, he's been on dialysis since 1990. And he was going 3 days a week, but now I think he goes 5. And it's a shame, because Ron was a good kid. He's always just a blessing to know. Smarter than a whip. And it's just a shame that society lost a good guy. You know, I figure when they get in there, they're lost to normal society. And nobody wants anybody to cop out far as society. They need good workers.
Yeah,
They need
yeah.
good people. They know people. They need people who have sense enough to look to who to vote for. So, but whatever you get, my dad always said, don't sit around whining. Do something.
Right. Well, you've done it.
And I just never forgot that.
Oh, thank goodness.
I figured if he had guts enough to ride a bicycle from Atlantic City clear to San Francisco or to LA, and then stop and get married on the way, there must be something strong there somewhere.
That's a ride.
Yeah. Dad was awful sharp. He was a smart guy. But he was a joker. He liked to have fun. I mean, I never ever heard of him taking a drink. He never smoked. And he would go to the Salvation Army about once a month, and he'd buy kids' shoes, underwear, shirts, and he'd pick out 2 or 3 people in town that had 8 or 9 kids, and the folks owned a couple apartment houses in the city, and he would go and drop them off and say, oh, some people moved out and left these things in the apartment. Maybe you folks could use them.
Aww.
I hate to throw them out. He says, I hate to throw them away. Maybe you could use them. He did that forever.
That is very cool.
And both of us kids, we always said we had one long arm, because when you went to school, at least 2 days a week, you were taking milk or food or something to a couple of old people that lived in town, and you dropped it off on the way to school. So we all kidded about the right arm must be a little bit longer than the other, because we were always carrying something. We were always carrying something to somebody. But the folks they were very good people. They were just sharp, and they just were really pretty good people. My mother had tuberculosis when she was young, and they put her in a sanitarium down in Iowa, and she got cured. And after she come home, she had this formula that they had used at the sanitarium to cure that cured her.
Wow.
So she fixed a room off the house, a sunroom, and us kids were never allowed in there. But she would hear somebody young that was tubercular, and she'd bring them out, and
help.
she would treat them, and it usually took about 2 months. And she had 7 different people over the years that she took care of, and every single one of them lived. Every single one of them.
That's beautiful.
And it was, well, just the way she was. Ma was a pretty sharp old gal.
Well, so are you.
So are you. We see where you get the good
I've
stuff.
talked too much. That's my problem.
No, not true.
You get me started and you can't shut me up. You might just as well know it.
Well, thank you.
Well, when life gets pretty dull when you're old. And,
That's for
you
sure.
don't have anybody chasing you anymore or nothing. And it gets pretty dry. So sometimes when I go to bed at night, I thank Ronnie. I thought, by God, you brought something into my life that kept me going, whether I liked it or not, whether I wanted it or not.
True.
So I can't really be angry with him.
Yeah, and you have, I know I've said it before, but you've helped a lot.
Well, I try. And I've always left the door open. If anybody wants to run away from over there at Gold, they're always welcome to come here.
And she has snickerdoodles, too.
Yes, that's true. But
Good.
Tabby Young, he was going to come here.
Really?
Yeah, but he backed out. I forget how he left over there.
Didn't he leave the Indians? They were on the Indian reservation, and he left in, I thought I heard that he was one of the ones that left under the hay. Like they tucked him under the hay, and they
It might have been.
got him off.
It might have been. But I was just so happy when I heard he left. I couldn't hardly stand it.
His wife was, Andreas had said to me, I don't think Scientologists are bad, they're just misinformed. And he recommended that I read things, and her article was the first thing I ever read that was like critical, and she said, ladies, if you're thinking of joining the Sea Org, which I was always thinking of going back in the Sea Org. And that's what got me crying for the 4 hours when I read about the enforced abortions.
Yeah.
And she had to go back to work the next day. And I couldn't stop crying. I thought,
Listen,
my group.
I mean, they just had a steady run going over to Riverside getting abortions. And what really peed me off is the people that were giving them were never said anything. They never brought it up that here's this young woman coming in crying with us forcing to give her an abortion, and they never did anything. They never said a word about it.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I
they're
didn't
the
know
ones, they should have been they should have been put in jail.
Cool.
I'm not kidding you. They should have been
I agree.
given the abortions for keeping their mouth shut. That's what they should have got. But it's, well, you know, evil. What was it my grandfather used to say? Don't worry, baby. Evil will out. That was one of the big things that he would say. Don't worry. Evil will out.
What does that mean? Evil.
Well, it means bad things will come to light, and people will know about it.
Oh, okay.
And they'll-
so they
they'll out.
and I love Warrior's expression, sunshine disinfects.
Yeah, that's
I love
true.
that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I lived with my grandfather I lived with Grandma and Grandpa for 2 or 3 years. I went to country school, and nobody's ever lived till they go to country school in Nebraska where everybody's German. They all spoke German all around my grandfather, but my grandfather. They used to get in the wildest arguments you ever heard. Hitler is no damn good. Hitler's saving our country, they'd say. And this was all these crowds that lived around him. Every single one of them come to Grandpa, and he'd fight with every single one of them. Watch it. He's no good. He's no good. I can hear Grandpa saying that. Well, I lived with them I went to country school for 2 years. And like I say, you never lived till you went to country school where the teacher gives me the long division because she don't know how to.
Well, that's that. It has an abrupt end. So we'll never get the answer to the long division question, but I apologize for the sync. It is very disappointing. Oh, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it nonetheless. Ida was a lot of fun to be around. I remember this was done in 2009, and she died the year later. I remember one of the last Thanksgivings that she had. She always threw a big affair for us, and always the snickerdoodles. She made the best. And I stopped on her way, on my way to her house that Thanksgiving. I stopped at like a CVS pharmacy, and there was a homeless gal outside. Looked presentable, not anything out of the ordinary. And I was tempted to invite her to just be my guest over at Ida's house. And I didn't do it. I mentioned it to I think I mentioned it to Tory later, and thank God you didn't bring her. But she certainly seemed like a nice person. I thought, well, we don't have to talk at all about, your situation. Just have a meal with us. Anyway, that didn't happen. And that's a story I've never shared. There you go. And, Kelly, thank you. That fourth wall, I got to tell you, not a streamer bro again coming through. Thank you so much for leading by example and constantly teaching how to confront with elegance. I meant to say elegance, yes. Yes, not eloquence. Oh, elegance, okay. But both are true, handling situations with grace. Well, there you go. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And the financial help is greatly needed at this point. Hey, Kelly thinks I have a good heart, which is good to know because she's my mod, and I'd hate to think that she hates me with a passion. heretofore unknown to man. So thank you, Kelly. Anyway, we've had our fun. We've suffered through painful audio lags, and we've come out the other side. I appreciate you coming by and sticking around and having a nice time with us. And I will have something again for you tomorrow, I'm sure, but I'll make sure that it's in sync. So I think we should probably wrap it up, because I have, I think I've done a record amount of babbling prior to the video. So I'm just going to wind it down quickly and just say how much I appreciate everyone stopping by and having this little family get together. It really is nice. So until next time, stay safe out there in this sector of the galaxy. It can be rough, I tell you. There's evil overlords that pop up here and there. So until we meet again, you folks have a lovely night. Bye.
What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Your crimes are hidden, they should be seen. Spin all out, Mark, and just come clean.